For most of us, life follows a predictable pattern. We wake up, go to work, and pay the bills. And as the harder we work, our expenses often rise to match our income. It is a cycle of motion where, no matter how fast we sprint, we wake up the next morning in the exact same cage. This loop is what author Robert Kiyosaki calls the rat race. Growing up, Kiyosaki observed two distinct approaches to money. His biological father was highly educated and worked a secure job, yet constantly struggled to pay his bills. But his best friend's father, an entrepreneur who never finished the 8th grade, grew to become one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii. By watching them, Kiyosaki noticed that ordinary people are driven by two primary emotions: fear and greed. The fear of not having money forces people into jobs they often hate. Then, once they get a paycheck, desire takes over, pushing them to buy consumer goods that drain their bank accounts. When they finally get a raise, they simply buy more expensive things. The core difference between the two fathers lay in how they spent their days. The educated father traded his time directly for a paycheck. The wealthy father spent his time building systems and acquiring assets that generated cash on their own, 24 hours a day. Escaping this loop requires letting go of the idea that a larger salary is the solution. It requires a complete psychological shift in how you view work and, more importantly, what you choose to do with money once it hits your bank account. If you want to build wealth, the first step is to ignore the standard dictionary definitions of assets and liabilities. In accounting terms, almost anything with value can be listed as an asset, but to a wealthy person, an item is defined strictly by how it affects your cash flow. This diagram shows the cash flow pattern of an asset. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. It generates income whether you work that day or not. Conversely, a liability takes money out of your pocket. Car loans and credit card debt sit in this column, constantly draining your resources. This definition leads to a controversial lesson. Your primary residence is a liability, not an asset. Most middle-class families consider their home their biggest investment, but every month it takes money out of your pocket for mortgage, taxes, and maintenance. This text highlights why tying it cash in a house damages wealth creation. First, you lose time for investments to compound. Second, you lose capital locked in equity. And third, you lose financial education. Without money to invest, you miss the experience needed to become a sophisticated investor. Building early wealth comes down to a specific prioritization of capital. You have to keep personal expenses low, minimize liabilities, and pour every available dollar into acquiring real assets. True wealth is measured by the duration your assets can fund your lifestyle without you ever needing to return to a desk. Independence is achieved when your asset column, rather than your corporate salary, pays for your existence. The rich also protect their wealth by utilizing corporations. An individual employee earns money, gets taxed on it immediately, and tries to live on what remains. A corporation operates in reverse. It earns money, spends everything it legally can on pre-tax expenses, and is only taxed on the remainder. With this structural protection, the wealthy focus on inventing money. They train themselves to recognize opportunities that others miss. Great investments are rarely obvious. They are found through financial literacy, analyzing numbers, and seeing potential value where others see risk. This is why choosing a career solely for job security or a high starting salary is a mistake. Instead of seeking work for what you will earn, seek work for what you will learn. Acquiring specific skills, like sales, marketing, or leadership, provides more long-term value than a slightly larger paycheck. These approaches are mapped in the cash flow quadrant. You can earn as an employee, self-employed, business owner, or investor. The left side, employees and self-employed, is characterized by limited leverage and high taxes. The right side, business owners and investors, is where systems do the heavy lifting, with significant tax advantages. Great wealth is a matter of structural positioning. To secure financial freedom, you must transition your primary income from the labor-intensive left side of this grid to the asset-backed right side. Even people who understand these mechanics often fail to execute them due to deep-seated psychological barriers. The fear of losing money keeps them in safe, low-yield savings accounts. Cynicism and unchecked doubt blind them to opportunities, while laziness, often disguised as being too busy with a day job, prevents them from managing their own financial business. To break past these barriers, you have to actively invest in your own mind. That means studying finance, carefully choosing a peer group that discusses assets rather than liabilities, and finding successful mentors who have already achieved your goals. There is also a counterintuitive principle at play: the power of giving. To receive money, you first need to give some away. Whether it is donating capital to a charity or offering your time to teach others, tithing sets a foundation of abundance rather than scarcity. Ultimately, money is an idea. It is a reflection of how you choose to operate in the world. When you replace a mindset of fear with financial intelligence, you stop working for money and you force money to work for you. Take a close look at your own balance sheet today. Are you buying assets or just collecting liabilities? Subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into building wealth, and let us know in the comments below, what is the very first asset you plan to acquire?